Queen Vera stood at the tall window of her throne room and watched the human ship descend through the purple clouds of her world. The vessel was small and gray, nothing like the massive golden warships of the Cathari fleet. It looked simple. It looked weak. She hoped the man inside would not be the same. The Cathari Empire stretched across 17 star systems. Vera had ruled it for 200 years, and her mother had ruled it for 300 years before that. Her people were tall and graceful, with pale blue skin and eyes that glowed like silver moons. They could touch minds with a thought. They could move objects without lifting a finger. They were proud, ancient, and powerful. And now, by order of the Galactic Council, she was expected to marry a human. The war between the Cathari and the human colonies had been short but bloody. Neither side had won. Neither side had lost. The council had stepped in and demanded peace. The price of that peace was a union between the two species. A political marriage. A symbol of trust. Vera had agreed because she had no choice. But she did not have to like it. Her chief advisor, a thin old male named Torath, stepped up beside her. His silver eyes watched the ship land in the courtyard below. "The human delegation has arrived, my queen," he said. "Shall I have them brought to the greeting hall?" "Yes," Vera said. "Let us see what kind of man they have sent to be my husband." She expected a general, perhaps a famous warrior or a powerful politician. Humans were young and primitive compared to the Cathari, but they have fought well in the war. Surely they would send someone impressive, someone worthy. The greeting hall was filled with nobles and advisors when the humans entered. There were 5 of them. 4 wore formal uniforms and walked with stiff military posture. The 5th walked behind them. He was average height for a human. His hair was dark brown and slightly messy. His eyes were a warm shade of hazel, and they moved around the room with quiet curiosity. He wore simple clothes, not a uniform. He smiled politely at the nobles who stared at him. He looked like nobody special. The lead human, a woman with sharp features and a crisp uniform, stepped forward and bowed. "Queen Vera," she said, "I am Ambassador Kelly Shaw, on behalf of Earth and her colonies. I present Danny Cole. He has volunteered for this union and has been approved by our government." Vera looked at the man called Danny Cole. He gave her a small, shy smile and bowed his head. "It is an honor to meet you, Your Majesty," he said. His voice was soft and pleasant. "Thank you for accepting me into your home." Vera felt a cold disappointment settle in her chest. This was the man? This quiet, ordinary person? She had expected strength. She had expected power. Instead, she received a man who looked like he would be more comfortable in a library than a battlefield. "Welcome to the Cathari Empire," she said, keeping her voice formal. "I trust your journey was comfortable." "Very comfortable, thank you," Danny said. "Your planet is beautiful. I saw mountains from the ship window. I hope I can visit them someday." The nobles exchanged glances. Torath raised one thin eyebrow. Vera simply nodded. The wedding ceremony took place 1 week later. It was grand and formal, as all Cathari royal ceremonies were. Danny stood beside Vera and spoke the traditional vows carefully, clearly having practiced them. He did not stumble over the difficult Cathari words. He did not look nervous. He simply smiled that soft smile and did what was asked of him. Afterward, at the great feast, Vera watched her new husband from across the table. He was talking to a young Cathari servant, asking questions about the food and laughing at his own mistakes when he used his eating utensils wrong. The servant seemed charmed by him. Several of the younger nobles were watching him with curious expressions. Torath leaned close to the queen. "He is not what we expected," the advisor whispered. "No," Vera agreed. "He is not. I have tried to read his mind, as you requested. But humans are difficult to read. Their thoughts are chaotic and strange. All I could sense from him was contentment. He seems genuinely happy to be here, happy to marry a stranger, happy to leave his home forever. So it would seem my queen. Vera did not understand it. She decided not to try. The months that followed were strange for everyone in the palace. Danny Cole did not act like a prince or a political figure. He acted like a guest who was determined to be. No trouble at all. He woke early each morning and went for walks in the palace gardens. He asked the groundskeepers if he could help them, and soon he had his own small section of the garden where he grew earth vegetables. He spent hours there, digging in the dirt and talking to the plants as if they could hear him. He attended every official function that Vera required him to attend. He stood quietly at her side during meetings with ambassadors and generals. He never spoke unless someone asked him a direct question. And even then his answers were short and humble. When nobles asked about his life on Earth, he said only that he had been in service and that he was glad to have a chance to start fresh on a new world. When they asked about his family, he said his parents had passed away and he had no siblings. When they asked what skills he had, he shrugged and said he was good at growing tomatoes. The court decided he was simple. Pleasant, but simple. A nobody, Vera treated him with distant kindness. She shared meals with him sometimes and found his company surprisingly comfortable. He never demanded anything. He never complained. He asked her about her work and listened carefully when she spoke. He remembered small details she mentioned and asked about them later. She began to think of him almost like a pet. A loyal, gentle creature who was happy with very little. One evening, she found him in the garden as the twin suns set over the mountains. "Do you miss Earth?" she asked. Danny looked up from his tomato plants and considered the question. "Sometimes," he said. "But there is beauty here too. And peace. I have not had much peace in my life." She did not ask what he meant. She assumed he was talking about the difficulties of being ordinary in a universe full of extraordinary things. She had no idea how wrong she was. 6 months passed since the wedding, and Danny Cole had become a familiar sight in the palace. The servants liked him because he thanked them for their work. The gardeners liked him because he helped them carry heavy things. The cooks liked him because he always praised their food, even when he could not eat it. The nobles tolerated him. The generals ignored him. And Queen Vera had grown, used to his quiet presence at the edges of her life. Then the reports started coming. It began with a mining outpost at the edge of Cathari space. The outpost sent a distress signal and then went silent. When patrol ships arrived, they found only wreckage and bodies. The attackers had left no survivors. 1 week later, a cargo ship disappeared. Then another. Then a small colony on a frozen moon was raided. The attackers took prisoners and vanished into the dark spaces between stars. The Vorax Collective had come. Vera knew of the Vorax. Everyone in the galaxy knew of them. They were a brutal alliance of pirates, slavers, and warlords from the outer regions. They preyed on weak civilizations and avoided strong ones. They had never dared to attack the Cathari before, but something had changed. The Vorax were growing bolder. Their raids were growing larger, and they were moving closer to the heart of the Empire with each passing week. Vera called her war council together in the great strategy room. Her finest generals gathered around the holographic map table, their silver eyes studying the glowing dots that represented Vorax attacks. General Kethran, the oldest and most respected military leader in the Empire, pointed at the pattern of attacks. "They are testing our defenses," he said, "probing for weaknesses. We should reinforce the border stations and wait for them to commit to a real attack." General Soraya, a younger commander with a reputation for aggressive tactics, shook her head. "We should strike first. Send a fleet into their territory and burn their bases. Show them the cost of threatening the Cathari. The generals argued back and forth. Vera listened carefully, weighing their words. She did not notice Danny standing in his usual spot near the back wall, watching the holographic map with an expression she had never seen on his face before. It was the expression of a man who was counting. The meeting lasted for 3 hours. In the end, Vera sided with General Kethron. They would reinforce the borders and wait. The Varaks were cowards at heart. They would not risk a real war. As the generals filed out, Danny remained behind. Vera was gathering her notes when she noticed him still standing there, staring at the map. Is something wrong? She asked. Danny did not answer immediately. He walked slowly toward the map table and studied the glowing dots in silence. His hazel eyes moved from point to point, tracing invisible lines between them. Your generals are making mistakes, he said finally. His voice was still soft, but there was something different underneath it. Something harder. Vera frowned. What do you mean? The Varaks are not testing your defenses. They are mapping them. He pointed at a cluster of dots near a nebula. These attacks here forced your patrol ships to reveal their routes. These attacks here told them how long it takes your reinforcements to arrive. And these attacks here showed them exactly where your sensor network has blind spots. He traced a path through the holographic stars with his finger. If I wanted to strike at the heart of an empire, this is how I would do it. Draw attention to the borders while I mapped the path to the center. He looked at her with those gentle hazel eyes. They are not coming for your outposts, Vera. They are coming for your capital. Vera stared at him. In 6 months, this was the longest she had ever heard him speak about anything other than gardening or cooking. How could you possibly know that? She asked. Danny smiled that soft, humble smile of his. Lucky guess. She did not believe him. But something in his voice made her feel cold inside. The capital is protected by 3 defense stations and the entire home fleet, she said. No force in the galaxy could breach those defenses. No force that you have seen, Danny agreed. But the Varaks have been very busy over the past year. They have been recruiting, growing. I think they have something new, something they have not shown anyone yet. And how would you know what the Varaks have been doing? He shrugged. I pay attention. The servants gossip. The merchants who visit the palace talk. The news feeds say more than people realize if you know how to read them. Vera felt a strange frustration building in her chest. This simple man, this gardener, was telling her that her experienced generals had missed something obvious. You are not a military strategist, she said. You grow tomatoes. Yes, Danny agreed. I do. Forget I said anything, Your Majesty. I am sure your generals know best. He bowed and left the room. Vera stood alone with the holographic map, staring at the pattern of attacks. She told herself that Danny was wrong. He had to be wrong. He was a nobody from a primitive species who happened to have a wild imagination. But that night, she could not sleep. She kept seeing the path he had traced through the stars. She kept hearing the certainty in his soft voice. And she kept remembering that strange expression on his face as he studied the map. The expression of a man who was counting, thought she did not know what it meant. She was not sure she wanted to know. 11 days later, she woke to the sound of explosions and screaming. The Varaks had come, and they had come exactly the way Danny said they would. The sky above the capital city was on fire. Vera ran through the palace corridors with her personal guard surrounding her. Alarms screamed from every direction. The lights flickered as explosions shook the building. Through the tall windows, she could see Varaks dropships descending like black birds of prey, spitting fire and troops into the streets below. The attack had come without warning. One moment the city was sleeping peacefully under the twin moons. The next moment, the defense stations had gone dark, and enemy ships were pouring through the sky. General Kethran was already dead. His command center had been hit in the first wave. General Soraya was trying to organize a counterattack somewhere in the lower city, but communications were failing. The Varax had done something to the network. Nothing was working the way it should. "We must reach the secure bunker beneath the palace," the captain of the guard said. His name was Lauren, and his silver eyes were wide with fear. "It is the only safe place, my queen. What about the civilians?" Vera demanded. "What about my people? We cannot save them if you die. Please, your majesty. We must move." They ran. The palace was chaos. Servants screamed and fled in all directions. Noble families pushed past each other trying to find safety. And behind it all, Vera could hear the heavy footsteps and guttural roars of Varax soldiers. Breaking through the outer doors, the Varax were monsters. They stood 8 feet tall with thick gray skin like stone. Their faces were flat and wide, with small black eyes and mouths full of jagged teeth. They had been bred for war across hundreds of generations. They felt no pain. They felt no mercy. They lived only to kill and conquer, and they were inside the palace. Vera and her guards reached the throne room just as the main doors behind them exploded inward. She turned and saw 8 Varax soldiers charging through the smoke. Their armor was black and covered in spikes. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy. The guards formed a line in front of their queen. There were 6 of them. They were brave. They were loyal. They did not stand a chance. The Varax crashed into them like a wave hitting sand. The first guard died before he could even raise his weapon. The second and third fell a heartbeat later. Captain Lauren managed to kill one of the attackers before a massive gray fist crushed his skull in seconds. Only 2 guards remained, and they were backing toward Vera with terror on their faces. "This is how I die," she thought. After 200 years. This is how it ends. Then a side door opened, and Danny Cole walked into the throne room. He was wearing the simple clothes he always wore. His hair was slightly messy, as it always was. He looked at the scene before him with those calm hazel eyes, and for a moment, Vera wanted to scream at him to run. But then she saw his face. It was not the face of the gentle gardener she had grown used to. It was not the face of a humble man who smiled at servants and grew tomatoes. It was something else entirely. Something cold. Something ancient. Something that had seen death 1,000 times and had never once looked away. The Varax saw him and laughed. One of them made a mocking gesture with its weapon. Danny did not react. He simply took 3 steps forward and picked up a broken piece of wooden chair from the floor. The laughter stopped. What happened next would be talked about for generations. Security recordings of those 47 seconds would be studied in military academies across the galaxy. Warriors and soldiers would watch them again and again, trying to understand what they were seeing. They would never fully understand. Danny moved like water flowing downhill. He moved like smoke in the wind. The first Varax swung its weapon at him, and suddenly Danny was not there anymore. He was behind the creature, and the broken chair leg was buried in the soft spot beneath. Its skull. The second Varax died before the first one hit the ground. Danny took a blade from the falling body and spun into the remaining attackers. He did not fight like a Keth-Ari warrior, with grace and telepathic precision. He did not fight like the Varax, with brute strength and rage. He fought like a human. He fought dirty. He fought smart. He used every object around him as a weapon. He targeted eyes and throats and joints. He moved so fast that the Varax could not track him. And every time one of them swung at empty air, Danny was already behind them, already striking, already killing. In 47 seconds. 8 elite Varax soldiers lay dead on the throne room floor. Danny stood in the center of them, breathing steadily. There was blood on his hands and on his face. The broken chair leg was still in his grip, along with the stolen blade. He was not sweating. He was not shaking. He looked like a man who had just finished a mild workout. He turned to look at Vera. "We should move," he said in that soft voice of his. "There are more coming." The two surviving guards stared at him with their mouths open. Vera could not make her body work. She could not find words. Her mind was trying to process what she had just witnessed, and it was failing completely. Danny walked to her and gently took her arm. "Vera," he said, "I need you to focus. Can you do that for me?" She looked into his eyes. They were still the same warm hazel color they had always been, but now she could see something behind them, a depth she had never noticed before, an ocean of experience and pain and strength that had been hidden under the surface all along. "Who are you?" she whispered. "I will explain everything later," he said. "Right now, we need to survive. Will you trust me?" She nodded. She did not know why. She did not know anything anymore. Danny smiled. It was almost the same soft smile she had grown used to. Almost. "Good," he said. "Stay behind me. Do exactly what I say. And try not to look at the bodies." He led her out of the throne room and into the burning night. The battle for the capital had just begun, and the gentle gardener was about to show the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. The battle for the capital lasted 6 hours. Danny led Vera and the two surviving guards through the burning palace like a ghost. He seemed to know exactly where the Varax were before they appeared. He moved through shadows and side passages that even Vera did not know existed. When enemies blocked their path, Danny dealt with them quickly and quietly. Vera stopped counting the bodies after the first dozen. They found other survivors along the way. Servants hiding in storage rooms, nobles cowering in closets, wounded guards who had been left behind. Danny gathered them all, organizing them into groups, giving them simple instructions in that soft, calm voice. By the time they reached the palace garrison, Danny had collected over 100 people and had personally killed 43 Vorak soldiers. The garrison was a fortified building in the center of the palace grounds. 300 soldiers were defending it against wave after wave of Vorak's attackers. They were brave and well-trained, but they were losing. The Voraks were too many, too strong. Then Danny walked through the gates with the queen and his ragged band of survivors. The garrison commander, a tired woman named Captain Thera, stared at him in confusion. "Who is this?" she demanded. "This is my husband," Vera said. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. "And he is now in command of this defense." Thera opened her mouth to argue, but something in Vera's eyes stopped her. Something she had never seen there before. Fear mixed with awe, mixed with something else entirely. "What are your orders?" Thera asked Danny. Danny studied the garrison defenses for 30 seconds. Then he started giving orders. He repositioned soldiers to cover blind spots the Cathari officers had missed. He organized fire teams in ways that multiplied their effectiveness. He identified weak points in the Varak's attack patterns and exploited them ruthlessly. He did not shout or threaten. He simply spoke, and people listened. Within an hour, the garrison had stopped losing ground. Within 2 hours, they were pushing back. Within 3 hours, they had secured enough of the palace grounds to establish a safe zone for the civilian survivors. And through it all, Danny kept fighting. He moved between positions, reinforcing weak points, leading counterattacks, appearing wherever the battle was most desperate. Soldiers who had never met him before followed him without question. There was something in the way he moved, something in his voice, that made men want to fight beside him. At dawn, the Cathari fleet finally broke through the Varak's blockade and began landing reinforcements. The enemy saw they could not win and started to retreat. By noon, the capital was secured. 12,000 Kethari had died in the attack, but it could have been millions. Everyone knew it, and everyone knew who had made the difference. That evening, Vera found Danny sitting alone in what remained of the palace garden. His tomato plants had been destroyed by fire and trampled by soldiers. He was looking at the ruined soil with a tired expression. "I'm sorry about your garden," she said. He shrugged. "I can plant new tomatoes. People cannot be replanted." She sat down beside him. Her beautiful royal robes were torn and stained with blood and ash. She did not care. "Tell me the truth," she said. "Tell me who you really are." Before Danny could answer, Ambassador Kelly Shaw appeared at the garden entrance. She walked toward them with a grave expression on her face. "I think I should explain," Shaw said, "since Danny never will." Danny sighed, but did not protest. Shaw sat down across from them and folded her hands in her lap. "Danny Cole served for 23 years in something we call the Special Activities Division," she said. "It is the most secretive branch of our military. The missions they perform are classified at the highest level. Officially, they do not exist." Vera listened in silence. "Danny has been shot 9 times in his career. He has broken more bones than our doctors could count. He once held a defensive position alone for 2 days against 400 enemy soldiers, while civilians evacuated behind him. He has saved 3 colonies from terrorist attacks. He has stopped 2 wars before they started." Shaw paused. "And that is only what I am allowed to tell you. The full file on Danny Cole is locked away in a vault that requires 5 generals to open." Vera looked at the quiet man beside her. He was staring at his ruined garden, avoiding her eyes. "Why did you send him to me?" she asked Shaw. "Why not tell me what he was?" "We did not send him. He volunteered. He specifically asked to be assigned to this marriage." Shaw's expression softened. "Danny retired from service 3 years ago. He said he was tired of killing. He wanted to find something peaceful, something gentle. When the marriage proposal came up, he saw it as a chance to start over. And you let the most dangerous human in the galaxy pretend to be a gardener?" "He was not pretending," Shaw said. "He really does love gardening. He really is kind and humble. That part of him is not an act. It is who he has always wanted to be." She stood up. "I will leave you 2 alone now. You have much to discuss." When she was gone, Vera turned to Danny. "Why did you never tell me?" Danny finally met her eyes. His face was tired, and for the first time since she had known him, he looked old. "Because I did not want you to see me the way people always see me," he said. "As a weapon. As a killer. I wanted you to know the man who grows tomatoes and burns breakfast and makes bad jokes. I wanted you to see me, not what I can do. You let me think you were nobody. I'm nobody. Or at least, I want to be." He looked back at the ruined garden. "I have taken so many lives, Vera. I have done things that would give you nightmares. I came here because I wanted to be someone different, someone peaceful." His voice dropped to a whisper. "I did not want you to be afraid of me." Vera reached out and touched his hand. It was covered in small scars she had never noticed before. "I am not afraid," she said quietly. "But I am angry that you did not trust me with the truth." Danny nodded. "You have every right to be. I am sorry." They sat together in the ruined garden as the twin suns rose over the broken city. Neither of them spoke. But for the first time, the silence between them felt different. It felt honest. 3 months passed after the attack on the capital. The palace had been rebuilt. The gardens had been replanted. And the galaxy had changed forever. The Varax Collective had made a terrible mistake by attacking the Kethari. They had hoped to catch the Empire weak and divided. Instead, they had united it with rage. And they had revealed themselves to be a threat that could no longer be ignored. Queen Vara formed an alliance with the human colonies. For the first time in history, HFY warships flew alongside human vessels. They moved through Virac space like fire through dry grass. Colony after colony fell. Base after base was destroyed. The Virac's leadership watched their empire crumble and could do nothing to stop it. The strategies that guided this campaign came from a special military advisor who preferred to remain unnamed. He attended planning meetings but never wore a uniform. He gave suggestions rather than orders. He smiled softly when generals praised his ideas and always gave credit to others. The soldiers called him the Ghost. The admirals called him the Gardener. The Viracs called him nothing at all, because speaking his name had become a bad omen among their people. Danny Cole had never wanted to be a legend. But the galaxy had other plans. At the end of 3 months, the Viracs Collective sent envoys to negotiate surrender. They came to the HFY capital in a small ship, carrying white flags and desperate faces. They had nothing left to bargain with. They could only beg for mercy. The surrender ceremony was held in the rebuilt throne room. Queen Vera sat on her golden throne, dressed in royal purple, looking every bit the powerful ruler she was. Ambassadors from a dozen species filled the hall. Human and HFY officials stood side by side. It was a historic moment. Danny stood behind the throne in his usual spot. He wore simple clothes, as always. His hands were clasped behind his back. His expression was calm and humble. The Virac's commander was a massive creature named Gorath. He had led many of the raids against HFY territory. He had killed thousands with his own hands. Now he walked into the throne room with his head bowed and his weapons gone. He stopped before the throne and dropped to his knees. "The Virac's Collective surrenders unconditionally," he said. His voice was rough and bitter. "We accept whatever terms you impose. We ask only that you spare our civilians." Vera nodded coldly. "Your civilians will not be harmed. Your warriors will stand trial for their crimes. Your leaders will be imprisoned. Your weapons will be destroyed." She paused. "The Virac's Collective will no longer exist as a military power. This is the price of your aggression." Gorath nodded slowly. He started to speak again, but then his black eyes moved past Vera and landed on Danny. The massive Virax visibly flinched. He recognized the Ghost, the man who had killed 80 of his best soldiers in a single night. The man whose tactics had destroyed his entire fleet. The man who had ended the Virac's Collective without ever raising his voice. Danny met the commander's gaze calmly. He did not speak. He did not need to. Gorath looked away quickly and stared at the floor until the ceremony was over. Later that evening, Vera found Danny in the new garden he had planted. He was kneeling in the dirt, carefully transplanting a small tomato seedling. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. "You could have stood beside me today," she said. "You earned that place more than anyone." Danny patted the soil around his seedling and stood up, brushing dirt from his hands. "I do not want to stand in front of crowds," he said. "I never did. I am happiest right here, with my hands in the dirt and my thoughts in the quiet." Vera watched him for a long moment. In the 3 months since the attack, she had come to know her husband better than she had in the 6 months before. She had seen the warrior and the strategist, but she had also seen the man who cried quietly when he visited the memorial for those who died in the attack. She had seen him spend hours comforting orphan children. She had seen him apologize to a servant for accidentally bumping into her in the hallway. Both sides of him were real. Both sides were true. And she had finally learned to love them both. "I have been thinking," she said carefully. "About humans? Oh? You are a strange species. You do not have our psychic abilities. You do not have the strength of the Viracs or the technology of the Grath. You are small and soft and fragile compared to most species in the galaxy." Danny smiled slightly. "This is true, but I have learned something these past months. Something important. She stepped closer to him. Your greatest warriors are not your loudest ones. They are the quiet ones, the humble ones, the ones who grow gardens and make jokes and burn breakfast. She touched his face gently. They carry oceans of strength inside them, and they never speak of it. They let others underestimate them because they have nothing to prove. Humans do not fight for glory, Danny said quietly. We fight for what we love. And we prefer not to fight at all if we can avoid it. That is what makes you dangerous, Vera said. A warrior who loves war is predictable. A warrior who hates war but fights anyway is the most terrifying thing in the universe. Danny turned to face her fully. Are you afraid of me now? She shook her head slowly. No, I am proud of you. And I am sorry it took me so long to truly see you. She took his dirt-covered hands in her pale blue ones and held them tightly. I would like to know both sides of you, she said. The gardener and the ghost. The gentleman and the warrior. All of it. Danny's eyes softened in a way she had never seen before. He smiled, and it was not the humble smile of a man trying to disappear. It was the smile of a man who had finally been seen. I would like that too, he said. Across the galaxy, a new saying began to spread among species who had once dismissed humanity as weak and unremarkable. The merchants whispered it. The soldiers warned each other about it. The leaders remembered it when they considered whether to threaten human worlds. Beware the humans who smile. Beware the ones who tend gardens. They are not showing you their weakness. They are showing you their mercy. And in the palace garden beneath alien stars, a quiet man and a powerful queen stood together among the growing tomatoes, finally understanding each other at last. The universe would never underestimate humanity again.